Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a review copy of Darwin's Journey, a new, highly anticipated Eurogame by Thundergryph Games. Darwin's Journey is a worker placement Eurogame. Players will be recalling Charles Darwin's memories of his adventure through the Galapagos Islands, which contributed to the development of his theory of evolution. Every single action you take will grant you victory points in different ways. The tension and the strategic planning that increases over the duration of the game and the fascinating vibe that the game conveys makes Darwin's Journey something that you need to check out. The game is for 1 to 4 players and the time to play is 30 minutes per player and is recommended for 14 and up. The game has a Board Game Geek complexity rating of 3.5 out of 5, but let me share with you 6 things that you need to know about this game. Number 1. The worker placement and progression. Each player will start with 4 workers to place on the board to perform actions. On each player's board, each worker has a certain number of wax seals assigned to them. Those workers can only go to actions on the board that correspond with the same colored wax seals assigned to that worker. But also don't worry because there are other spots on the board that don't require any wax seals to visit. During the game, you'll be visiting different diaries on the board, but one in particular lets you add more wax seals to your workers so that they can visit more and more locations on the board. Now, when you're placing a worker, there are 3 types of locations that you should be aware of. There are the large magnifying glass spots, small circular lens spots, and square or rectangular magnifying spots. With all of these locations, you may need to pay any amount of coins shown on that action space if it's listed. And in addition, if there is a worker placed on one of the diaries before you place yours there on the same diary, you will also have a coin penalty paying an extra coin to take that action. There are 4 diaries on the board, and depending on player count, those can be further divided in half to make more with more players. This will be shown with a red ribbon within that diary. Now to go over these 3 types of locations, there's the large magnifying glass spots that can hold unlimited number of workers, but you could pay a coin penalty if you're not the first one there. The circular lens spots can only hold 1 worker, and the square or rectangular magnifying glass spots can hold any number of workers without ever having a coin penalty associated with it. Just make sure that when placing your worker in a spot, it also satisfies the wax seal requirement. Looking at the board, different diaries let you perform different actions. This is the exploration action, letting you move your explorers on the islands. This is the navigation action, letting you move your ship. This is the correspondence action that lets you add stamps to different envelopes. And this is the academy, where you can purchase more wax seals. These are the main diaries with more actions listed below. All of the actions below are upgraded actions from the ones above and need to be unlocked before anyone can use them. Number 2. Exploration, navigation, and correspondence. These might be some of the main general action players will be doing throughout the game, along with the academy, which I will explain later on. Exploration lets you move the number of spaces listed on the space that you placed your worker, either 2, 3, or 4 spaces. The first island is unlocked at the beginning of the game, and when you move your boat using the navigation action past certain points, you'll be able to add a new explorer to the next island to begin to explore. When moving, any spot occupied by another player is skipped and doesn't count towards the total number of movements. And when moving wherever you choose to stop, you will take that action. If you stop moving early, with more movement remaining, you will lose it unless you have an added ability to go on. As players explore, the first player to pass a banner will gain the points shown. Points are always shown by a book icon with the number of points shown inside. The possible actions that you'll see on these islands are: Number 1. Researching a species. You might find one of the 16 repertoires shown by circle tiles with a shown species. You will take a clear research token and place it on your player board matching that species. These eventually can be shared to the museum to gain money and advancement on the evolution track. Number 2. Placing tents. Each player starts with 5 tents on their player board, and players will pay the amount shown to place a tent on that spot on the board. and then they will be able to take the action along with the action that they uncovered on their player board. Number 3, bonuses. You will simply gain the listed bonuses like coins, immediate actions, and at times temporary knowledge, which can be used later to act as any colored wax seal for a worker to meet the location requirement. On to the navigation. The navigation is similar, but you will be moving your boat instead. Moving forward will let you unlock other islands to explore, but also at the end of each round, you will score the objective for that round, starting with the objective furthest back. You will count up your points gained from that objective, then if your boat is behind the beagle, depending on how far, you will lose points. Due to this, you will want to try to keep up with the beagle. But as you do that, you can also perform actions shown on the line when you stop on that space. The Correspondence action will let you take the number of stamps shown in the action spot that you placed your worker in to be placed on one of the 3 envelopes. At the end of that round, the player with the majority will gain the action shown on that space, and the player with the second most stamps will also gain the less powerful action. And since money is hard to get in this game, this is a good way to get money. Also, whenever you have placed all stamps from a pile from your player board, then you'll be able to take that action in addition, shown on your player board. Number 3, the museum and the theory of evolution. Adventure and exploration are vivid and engaging as you trace back Darwin's memories through many of his discoveries in the Galapagos Islands, which heavily contributed to his theory of evolution. By exploring the island and navigating through the ocean, you will find new incredible species and take notes of your discoveries. Placing a worker on this area will let you send your repertoires to the museum. The first one is free, but you can add up to 2 total, but you will need to pay 3 coins to add an additional one. Players are able to research the same species by landing on that spot somewhere on the board, but only one player will be able to deliver it to the museum. First come, first served. When performing this action, you will find the tile of that species and add it to the museum on the board. Wherever you end up placing that tile, you will score points and gain money from that column and row that it's included in. For each already placed tile, you will gain 1 movement on the evolution track, and for each section without a tile, you will gain 1 coin. So really, at the beginning of the game, you will be gaining more money, but towards the end of the game, you will be gaining more movement on the evolution track. If this was the first tile placed in that row, then you will also gain an additional coin set to the right side of that row. If this happens to be the last tile in that row, then the player will move an extra space on the evolution track. This is a good way to get coins in the game, but also you want to move up on the evolution track because at the end of the game, you will count how many completed rows in the museum and add 2 to that number. And then you will multiply that by where you're at on the evolution track. This is one of the most important sources of victory points in the game. Number 4, the special actions. So far, I have covered all the general actions in the game. Now it's time to cover the special actions. In the game, unlocking new actions by placing your personal lens on the board is among the most satisfying things to do. To do so, you will visit the spot on the board, you will pay the cost associated with that spot, and then you will take the action associated with the spot that you just unlocked for free, without needing a worker or even meeting the requirements of that action. From there on out, whenever another player takes that action on your lens, you will gain an extra coin. There are then also 6 additional special actions, but they are randomly drawn during setup and different for each time that you play, which can change the pace and strategy of the game. Number 5, the professions and objectives. Throughout the game, you will have objectives for each round, but also crew cards and personal objectives. The crew cards and the personal objectives will need a little bit more thought and time to complete them. Each objective tile and crew card has specific requirements listed on them. Players can fulfill any of these at any point during their turn, or during the reward phase as long as its listed requirements are met. Each player will start with 2 personal objectives with the ability to collect more during the game. Once a personal objective is completed, that player will place the tile on their player board to unlock a bonus. Sometimes it's a one-time bonus, and in others are ongoing advantages for the entire game. Crew cards are a little bit different. They are first drafted during setup as it can be a big part of your strategy in the game, and it requires a lot of planning. With the cards that you end up drafting, the top right of each card will be your starting wax seal for one of your workers, letting you know what ability you can potentially perform at the beginning of the game. The lower wax seals represent the requirements that one worker needs to have to accomplish that crew card. At the bottom is the action that you will receive once accomplishing the seal requirement. There are 16 crew cards in the base game, and all will change strategies depending on how you draft them. Thundergryph also mentioned that there will be more characters as they will appear throughout their Kickstarter, so keep your eyes peeled. Number 6. My thoughts on the game. This game is not linear at all. As you can see, I started talking about a part of the game, and then later on I had to come back to it because there isn't this leads to that. This is a dynamic game where you can focus on whatever aspect of the game that you would like. If you don't want to score those bonuses from your crew cards, then ignore them and focus on other things. If you don't want to spend a worker to do correspondence, then go do something else. But whatever you end up doing, it will probably change what the other players will do. Because if you're not doing correspondence, then it makes it easier for the other players to gain majority. If you aren't picking up wax seals, then your workers are going to be less flexible. If you don't achieve your personal objectives, then you will never get those discounts or bonuses that everyone else might be having. And lastly, if you don't keep your ship up with the Beagle, then you will slowly score less points than you could have if you would have kept up with that boat. The game is pretty easy to pick up and learn how it's played, but the way that you play it is the fun part, and it tickles the brain as you weigh out several actions. And sometimes those choices are hard because remember, being first is better as you don't have to pay the coin penalty. Now going back to the coins, it's the resource that is hard to manage. You are always wanting money in this game. Some of the ways that you can get money in the game is by doing the explore action and stopping on a space that has money. Or instead you can stop on a new species and then take that to the museum to gain coins and movement on the evolution track. Also score majority on the envelope that gives you coins. And some of the other special and bonus actions can also give you money as well. The game includes everything that I like in a game. It's not super complicated. Turns are fairly quick. Planning and strategy is very important, and it works my brain enough that it triggers enjoyment. The game has amazing art with a great theme, and the components are well made, and there are chances for upgraded, deluxeified components from the Kickstarter as well. And the last reason is the game is from a proven publisher. So travel throughout the Galapagos Islands, finding new species with your family and friends in Darwin's Journey by Thundergryph Games. Again, this is Boardgame Brody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.